a little girl whose life seemed like a dream, but was actually a nightmare, who on the outside was smiling and laughing, but was actually suffering in the comfort of her own home, who everyone thought was okay, but her life was cut short in a horrendous plot twist that shocked many all over the world. This is the story of Judith Ava Barsi. Hi everyone, my name is Shelby, and welcome to True Crime with Shelby. I have tried to film this video many times. I never thought that this type of channel would be as hard as it is, but I can't tell you how long it took me to film the intro to this video. This has been something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I mean, I think what holds a lot of people back from creating a YouTube channel is just being afraid that others around them will make fun of them. But honestly, just post it. If you're thinking about making a YouTube channel, just do it, because if I can do it, you can do it. All right? If this video is being posted, that means I did it, and I don't know. In this channel, I'm going to be real with everybody, and I'm gonna share a hobby that I've had since I think it started about 3 or 4 years ago, that I've been really into true crime and anything creepy, scary, paranormal. As you can see, I have Jason light mask. This background, sorry, it is my bedroom, and it is quite messy. I'm working on cleaning it, but I've been preoccupied with work and school and a bunch of other stuff. You can also see Michael Myers back here, and I tried to film this video with Coraline, but I couldn't get it to look right. My laptop is propped up on an Annabelle doll box, with the doll in it. So I think that I can say with confidence that I am a horror movie freak. I have a Chucky doll on top of my bookshelf. I have a clown I found in an antique store that I named Michael, that's also on top of my bookshelf. And I also have a Pennywise doll on top of my bookshelf. So I have a lot of different things around my room that just share who I am. And I mean, I love everything that has to come with this. I think it's interesting, and I think a big reason why I wanted to create this type of channel is to share the stories of people who were silenced. And I don't know, cause I don't know, you know, but I'm gonna keep this in because this is just who I am. This is me. This is me. Um, but before I get started with the thing you clicked on this video for, I do want if you want to click the subscribe button, and while you're down there, you might as well just click the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. And also, while you're down there, why don't you click the thumbs up button? Don't get confused. Make sure your device is upright, because you don't want to get confused with the dislike button. Let's please don't press that. I have my laptop on the lowest brightness, so I can't tell when it's about to cut off. So if I look to the side, I'm going to try to, as much as I can, I'm going to try to read it over, edit that out, and then, look to you guys and say it, just so I don't, look distracted, and just to keep, you know, the video entertaining for you guys. I don't know how many people are going to be watching this, but the most important thing is that you're watching this, and you're watching this for a reason, so why don't you click the subscribe button? Alright. Okay. Also, before I get into this, I want to say real quick, I do not mean anything that I say in this video with any amount of disrespect at all. I mean everything I say with the utmost respect. And if I say something that doesn't seem respectful, call me out on it. Be prepared to call me out on it. But everything I say, um, any joke I ever say in this video is just to keep the video lighthearted with a very serious topic. Because let's be real, this type of thing isn't a joke, and I know that. But sometimes you gotta make jokes, all right, just to bring some light in this situation. But I do mean everything with the utmost respect. Also, before we get into this video, I do have a couple of warnings that I have typed in. One is mentions of child abuse. Another is trichotillomania, and that or otherwise known as trick. It is I believe it is a mental disorder, and it is like where you pull out your hair and eyelashes out of stress. Some people do it. Obviously, violence is going to be mentioned in this video, and domestic abuse is also mentioned in this video. So if that's just not your jam right now, if that's just not something you want to hear about, I don't know when you're watching this video. I might have other videos uploaded. If not, it's YouTube. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of true crime videos and podcasts on here, or you can even go to Spotify and find a true podcast. A good one that I personally like, there's Morbid. There's Bailey Sarian is a good one. She does murder mystery and makeup. On her YouTube channel, you can watch her do her makeup, and she also uploads it on Spotify. I also really like Call Me Chris. She is probably one of my biggest inspirations, honestly. She's probably the reason why I am posting this, because I actually just got done watching her Ed Gein video, which that is a freaky story. If you want me to talk about that in any of my videos, I'm open to it. And this intro is already, I'm sure it's gonna be less with some edits out. I don't know how much I'm gonna edit out of this video, or try to edit this video. But my phone timer says 10 minutes. So I'm gonna try to move on. And yeah. Joseph Istvan Barsi, otherwise known as Joe, and Maria Virovax, I believe that's how you pronounce it, were both Hungarian immigrants who fled to the U.S. Around the time of the Soviet occupation, Hungarian Revolution in 1956. They both came to America at different times of that era, but yeah, they both came to the U.S. at two different times, but still it's around the time of the Soviet occupation and Hungarian Revolution. The two met at a restaurant that Maria was waitressing at. Joseph was like the mysterious type of guy, the guy that you would be drawn to just automatically, not even just like it's one of those guys that you're confused why you're so drawn to them, and it's just because he keeps to himself and it doesn't really like disclose a lot of his personal life. What drew Maria to Joseph was he paid for all of his drinks and pretty much everything in general with $100 bills. which, I mean, it's kind of weird because it's not often that you would get that. Most people pay with card or like smaller bills, but this guy, it was always $100 bills, and I don't know whether it like intrigued her in a way of like, oh, this guy is rich, or intrigued her in a way of like this. I don't know. The two came from very different backgrounds. Maria came from the more ideal life. She had the life that was mostly stable. Um, while Joe, he was he grew up in a more industrial area. Um, his dad left, I believe. Some I've heard some people say that. I've read some sources say that his dad was not really in the picture. Um, and he was poor. He didn't really have the best upbringing, um, which you see with a lot of these, you know, you see in a lot of these cases that the killer, the suspect, if you will, always has the upbringing of they're the victim, and it's I mean yeah, people like John Wayne Gacy who had a super religious mother and a abusive father, and who had a brain injury. I believe Ted Bundy, he had God, he I can't remember exactly what happened, but I believe like he had pretty uninvolved parents. And just in general, a lot of these like serial killers you'll see nowadays, if what had happened in this case didn't happen, I fully believe Joe would have gone to commit more crimes. Honestly, that's just what you would see. He even went so far as to say his parents, both of them, were dead. Like they were gone. He also said that he lost sight in one of his eyes from a fight, and he killed a man. He also said he killed a man in a bar brawl back in New York and served time in prison for it. As far as we know, all of these claims are complete lies. You'll notice with this guy, he always has the victim mentality, but he also has he's very narcissistic. Nothing that ever happens that's bad is his fault. It's always someone else's fault. But if it's good, if it was a good situation that the family was in financially, it was him. It was him that did it. He got him there. That's why I feel he resented Maria so much. Um, in Judith too, because Maria was the one who got Judith all these auditions. You'll see later in the video whenever I talk about it. She was the one who got the auditions, and then that led to Judith providing for the family and getting them to where they were in life. And he couldn't make up a believable lie to be like, oh yeah, I did this, I got us here, she didn't do anything. And so I've never heard anyone say this opinion. This is just my opinion. And that's why I feel things turned out the way they did and they got so bad. Despite his whole mysterious, tough, broody exterior, the two got on pretty well, allegedly, according to people around them. They got on pretty well. They were pretty happy. Um, in even a few years after, or they had a brief relationship before they got married. So they got married pretty early on in their relationship as far as I know. Um and they were pretty happily married for I guess 2 years, a couple years, something like that. Um but one thing about Joe is he was a alcoholic. and he wasn't even the drunk that you would be okay being around. I mean, any type of alcoholic is not the person you probably want to be around. They're probably not the best influence, in my opinion. Um, but there you have the funny drunk, you have the more relaxed drunk. Joe had quite a temper. He got violent whenever he was drunk, which was most of the time. Most of the time he always had a drink in his hand. I don't I don't think like there was ever a time or a day that would go by at this point in time of their relationship or in general that he ever didn't have a drink in his hand, and if it was because he was working on his sobriety. But they the two he basically drank their money away. What little money they had, he mostly spent it on drinks. Um, is from like my context clues, I would say. Now here is where I get a little bit annoyed with Maria, and I want to say that I'm not saying that in any way is him being drunk and always having a drink in his hand like her fault. But I am saying is she saw this. She saw his like bad temper, drunk side, the whole relationship basically, minus what they people would say they're happy, but you don't always know what is happening within a relationship. The most like the happiest couples you would see on the outside are arguably the toxic ones. Um and but I mean, also you gotta I always like tell myself I have to consider the fact that at this time they weren't living a luxurious life. I mean, Maria continued to work as a waitress and Joe was a plumber. And back in these days, I don't know about now. I know waitresses make slim to nothing, but I don't know about plumbers. But back in this day that it didn't get you much. I mean, it got Joe his drinks, that's for sure. I don't know where the $100 bills went. Probably alcohol, but we don't know. Um, and also, I have to remind myself that in a toxic relationship, you become very dependent on your partner. And I mean, she didn't really have a place to go. Again, they were broke. It wasn't like she could go and rent an apartment, and she was from Hungary. As far as I know, she didn't really have very many friends, so she couldn't go stay with anyone. And this was back in between the late 50s and the early 70s. um Divorce wasn't isn't it isn't like it is today. It isn't as easy, and she can't afford a divorce. It's not like she can go out. I just got to continue to like remind myself of that. Now we get into June 6th, 1978, Los Angeles, California. Maria and Joe give birth to their first and only child, a little girl who they named Judith Ava Barsi. According to people around them, uh, the two devoted their entire life to this little girl, gave her the best life that they could provide. Um, Joseph, or sorry, Joseph was a very modern man, the provider, or he believed that he was the provider, and that, you know, moms should stay home with the kids, cook and clean, and he should have dinner on a plate whenever he gets home. And he overall he just believed that he was the one that should be making the money, and that she should be the one that cooks and cleans and take cares takes care of the children. Maria treated Judith as like her little doll in the best way possible. Like she would dress her up and do her hair all nice, And from the moment that Judith was walking and talking, she was training Judith to basically be the little star that she believed her to be. Um, she would enroll her in ice skating lessons, just everything to make her the picture perfect child that anyone would want on their TVs. She would even go as far as to make sure that she perfects her American accent. Eventually, in 1983, Judith gets noticed by a production company or production crew at an ice skating rink while she was obviously ice skating. And by age 5, she was getting her first gig. Um, she she was in, I think the exact number was 73 commercials in total. 72, 73. A big one that I believe was the most popular was Donald Duck's orange juice. And then she was in a Lay's chips commercial. I believe it was like jalapeno something. You can go look it up on YouTube. It's adorable. She is like the cutest little thing. Not long into her career, she gets an agent by the name of Ruth Hanson. She, into her career, like she wasn't even famous, and she was making $100,000, which in today's money would be over $200,000. That's insane, and she wasn't even famous at this point. Imagine like whenever she actually starts getting films. Like this is just whenever she was in commercials. Whenever she was getting into films, that's the crazy part. Ruth Hanson, her agent, describes her as a happy, bubbly little girl, unlike a lot of kids her age. She also had, I, I don't think it was any like sort of disability, but she was short for her age, which would cause her to get roles that were a little bit younger than her. So while she would be getting roles that were 3 or 4, she would be 5 and 6 at the time. And she did end up getting like growth hormones, but I don't know if that affected her height at all. I do know before the growth hormones, or it was either before the growth hormones or it was like the time where she unfortunately passed away. She was 3'8". Um, so it caused her to get just younger roles. But it probably opened up horizons for her a little bit more. Um, I, but yeah, so while filming Jaws the Revenge in 1987, there were some noticeable changes in Judith's behavior. She was reportedly super anxious and got upset over the tiniest things, which was super unlike her. She would pull out chunks of her hair, all of her eyelashes, and even go as far as to pull out her cat's whiskers. After filming Jaws the Revenge, she and her mom went to New York to visit her uncle Joseph. And while there, Joseph, her uncle again, got a little insight of what was going on at home. Judith's father, Joe, goes, uh, gives her a phone call, and while on the phone call, it was on speakerphone, and Joseph, the uncle, heard Judith's father mention something about a knife. Now let's go back just a little bit. The more famous that Judith would get, the more jealous Joseph would get. He started drinking more, which we all know what happens when he drinks. He gets super violent, has an awful temper, and you can fill in the blanks. There were claims that he would throw glass, pots, and pans at Maria and Judith. There were multiple occasions where he would threaten them with a knife if they said anything or if they didn't come back, etc. And this time wasn't any different. While they were packing, they had just packed up, they were about to leave, Yosef pulls Judith aside and says, quote, "If you don't come back, I will cut your throat." End quote. Because after the phone call, Judith went crying to her room, and days later they returned to California. They kept everything to themselves, didn't say a word. And Yosef worked on his sobriety, which, whenever he wasn't drinking, apparently he was charming and funny. But whenever he was working on the sobriety, he only got more aggressive towards Maria and Judith. He would openly talk about wanting to murder his wife Maria, and there were multiple occasions where he would tell Maria that he would take his own life and the child's, Judith's. In 1986, Maria finally decides to go to the police. She goes on to tell them that for the past 5 years, her husband has been abusing her. And because there were no visible marks on her skin, the police decided not to investigate. And that just ticks me off. Honestly, like, I mean, yeah, I get it. But also, if you're not gonna talk to anyone around them, what's the point? Like, but then Maria just decides not to. So Maria decides not to prosecute, and just she goes on as normal because obviously the police are not going to help her. According to others around the family, Yosef was showering Judith with all kinds of different gifts, including a pink TV to go in her all-pink bedroom. But while he was showering her with gifts, it also came with some conditions. There was an occurrence that a neighbor recalls, a neighbor who just wants to remain anonymous. They say that the story begins while they were on their front yard, my bad, and so was Judith. She was flying a kite. Some sources say Maria bought it for her. Some say Joseph bought it for her. But there's no way to tell. That's irrelevant in this story. It goes on that while playing with it, Joseph snatches it out of Judith's hand. And this has apparently happened before because she is pleading with him to put it down because she is scared she'll break it. So essentially she's just like, "Dad, you're gonna break it. You've done this before." Like, some sources say like she's done this multiple times and that's why. But honestly, if you snatch your toy out of a kid's hand, they're gonna say something. But his response was that she was being spoiled. Whenever she pleads with him to put it down, stating that she thinks he's going to break it, he turns to Maria, and I believe the exact quote is, "Look at her. She's being so spoiled, not wanting to share her toys." End quote. And after that, he breaks the kite into a million little pieces in front of her. Okay, what was going through this neighbor's mind? Was this a friend of the family's and that's why she didn't do anything about it? Did Maria say that she tried to go to the police but nothing was said? But if you went to the police with this type of information, maybe they would have done something. It was worth a try, but also maybe they did say something to Maria and Maria said, "Don't worry about it." Maybe Maria defended Yosef. There's no way to really tell because there's no other details other than that. It was only when her home life started affecting her work that someone actually stepped in to do something. And that someone was her agent, Ruth Hansen. The occurrence goes is she went to Judith and said that she had an appointment or an audition for a movie called All Dogs Go to Heaven. And instead of being happy about it, maybe cheering, Judith cries uncontrollably to the point where she can't talk. She can't, won't, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. she won't talk. She goes to Maria, or Ruth goes to Maria and highly advises her to take her to a child psychologist. And she does. Nothing comes up of the situation even after the psychologist brings whatever information they learned to a to social or to child services. But to that, Maria said that she had rented an apartment in Panorama City, um, and that while Judith wasn't at work and she wasn't accompanying Judith at work, they would spend the day at the apartment, only returning to the home at night, and that she was going to be divorcing Joe soon. Yeah. Um, and a neighbor and family friend, Eunice Daly, says that the only reason why Maria hasn't fully moved into the apartment yet is because she doesn't want to leave behind Judith's clothes, toys, and other earnings that she had earned from acting. What Maria doesn't know is that her husband Joe has been being unfaithful. And a whole other thing is that he's treating the other woman way nicer than he even treats his own wife and daughter, taking her on expensive dates, buying her expensive jewelry, etc. And I think my Roman Empire is literally like what what would have happened if things had gone differently the summer of 1988. The year of 1988, Judith films two animated movies, two of which you would recognize. One is Land Before Time, where she plays a little dinosaur named Ducky, and you know that character by her famous catchphrase, "Yep, yep, yep." And then the other one is All Dogs Go to Heaven, where she plays a little girl named Anne Marie. And a not so fun fact about that one is the actor who played Charlie, Burt Reynolds, had to retake the final scene of All Dogs Go to Heaven 63 times because he couldn't stop crying. And the reason for that is Judith did not live long enough to see that movie or Land Before Time. At some point, there was a claim that Yosef was joking around with his friends, saying that he wanted to kill Maria so bad or something like that, just joking about killing Maria. And then one of his friends asks, "What about the little one?" Referring to Judith, to which he says, I'll just have to kill her too." July 25th, 1988, Judith missed a important appointment for, I believe it was All Dogs Go to Heaven, and Ruth, her agent, was very concerned, so she calls the family home, and Yosef picks up and says that her and Maria got in a big car on the way to San Diego. But I feel like I would question why Maria never said anything to Ruth, like said, "Hey, Judith can't work this day because we're going to San Diego." Or maybe I don't know. I don't know. But the next day, Yosef calls Ruth himself and says that he's about to move out of the family home, but he wants to stay long enough to say goodbye. At 8:30 a.m., July 28th, 1988, Eunice Daly, the neighbor from earlier, reportedly hears a bang coming from the family home and looks up from watering her plants in the garden, and sees smoke rising in the house. And she calls the authorities, and there's a quote from her saying, quote, as I, all, sorry, hold on, I gotta read it from here, because I don't think I can, just think of it. But it is, quote, "My first thought as I ran to call 911 was, he's done it. He's killed them and set fire in the house, just like he said he would." End quote. And while waiting for authorities, she tries to put out as much of the fire as she can with her garden hose. And honestly, if she hadn't done that, I don't think that the bodies inside would have been recognizable to any extent. A few days later, after the authorities had contacted the family's relatives back in Hungary, they released to the media that Judith Barsi and her parents had passed away. No one knows exactly when, but somewhere in between July 25th and July 28th, Judith and her mother were murdered, and Josef had took his own life. Maria was murdered in the hallway, Judith in her bed, a single gunshot to the head to each. And on the morning of the 28th, Josef had doused the whole entire family home with gasoline and then went to the garage and took his own life. And like I said, there's no way to know exactly what happened in the family home as there were no survivors. But there is a theory that I have seen that I do kind of agree with because it would make sense. Um uh this theory, the specific one, is that Yosef went to Judith's room while she was sleeping and took her life, and then Maria heard the gunshot and then came running, but she was only met with Yosef, and he takes her life, um, and then decides to go to the garage and take his own life morning of the 28th, only after dousing the whole family home with gasoline. Another theory is that Maria was shot first in the hallway, doing whatever, and then he goes to Judith's room and shoots her, and then obviously douses the whole family home with gasoline and then takes his life in the garage. The only reason why I don't agree with that one, but I do kind of can see the first one happening, is I feel like that unless Judith was a very heavy sleeper, that she would have heard the gunshot and woken up to it. Um, and I don't think that she would have been found in her bed like that. Um, and I do think that if that the second theory was real, that it would have been more that she was like beside her bed. Maybe I feel like she would have popped up. I feel like there would have been a little bit more of a like of that theory rolling around. But the first one I can see happening. The only thing that I'm very confused of is how no one saw or no one heard the gunshot to the Maria and Judith's head or to them. Because it was two shots each. Um, but if it was on the morning of the 28th, then Eunice would have heard as she was in her garden that morning. Um, but I also think that they would have made it to the appointment or to the appointment to the All Dogs Go to Heaven to finish that movie, um, if they were still alive on the morning of the 25th. So I do believe, my personal opinion is that they were both killed on the morning of the 25th, and he was just trying to make it believable that they were alive. Because if his original story was true, that they got into a big car on the way to San Diego, Maria would have told Ruth. There would have been more communication to that, seeing as Maria was pretty good with dealing with all of Judith's work. But I do feel like they would have showed up if they were still alive that morning. So I do agree with the first theory, and I do believe that they were killed um, on the morning of the 25th. Judith and Maria now rest in Forest Lawn Cemetery in Hollywood Hills, and in 2004, fans all came together to finally give Maria and Judith a gravestone. Judith's gravestone has her famous quote that will live on in all of our hearts from Land Before Time. Ducky's yep, 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 that will live rent free in your head every time for at least 4 months after watching Land Before Time. At least that's for me. And as far as I'm aware, Yosef's remains were not disclosed to the media. I could care less where his remains are at this moment in time because I just could care less. Um, a lot of Judith's co-stars that she would act with do show up to her funeral to mourn a beautiful, amazing, sweet child actor who had so much potential. After things calmed down, the public was rightfully angry. They would constantly ask why, why they hadn't done more, while child services hadn't done more, while the police hadn't done more. And the response to that was they truly believed that they had done all that they could have done. Like, they did all that they could have done, to their ability. And then the public also asked why not remove Judith from the situation altogether. And the response to that was they didn't want to take her away from her mother, which it would have been the best for Judith. While Maria settles everything, gets all moved into the apartment, Judith would go back to her. It's a simple explanation. While Judith may never act again, her work lives on, her memory will live on, and she will be remembered for her sweet personality and her very high potential. And that's all I have for today. That's all I have for this case. This case was a tearjerker. I think I cried 3 times writing. This case it hits home because I remember as a child watching Land Before Time, not because I necessarily enjoyed it. I think I was a little bit too young, but my sister really liked it. But I mean, Ducky was my favorite character, and I had never known that this was the dark past behind this character. And then I had watched All Dogs Go to Heaven in school. I remember one movie day we did watch it, and I could have never guessed that was the dark past behind that either. I don't know how to make an outro for this video because I don't know how to make it lighthearted after just talking about all that. But yeah, so that's all I have for today, or for this case, and I will try to be consistent with these videos. And I don't know how consistent I will be because the holidays are coming up as I'm filming this. I think it's about a week from Halloween, and then we got Thanksgiving, and then we got Christmas, and before we know it, New Year's will be here. And then I have a bunch going on the first few months of the next year. Between school and my personal life, I am very much occupied right now, but I will try to be as consistent as possible with these videos. And that is all. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you have any suggestions for the next case I should research and bring to you guys, just put a comment in there. And yeah, just make sure to like and subscribe. I feel so corny saying that. Like, I don't know, it's just that's just the basic motto of a YouTuber. Like and subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe. I don't know. But yeah. Have a good day. Have a good night. Um, good rest of your day. Whenever you're watching this.